Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the budget deliberations and debate. We're going to continue on with our operating budget discussion. I'm just going to look to Madam Clerk to see if there's anything we need, anything that you need to tell us before we get going, anything changes or anything.
No changes at all, Mayor. I'm ready to go when council is.
Okay. Any questions from council before we get started? Anything that you need before we start with the motions? Good? Okay. Let's get going. Oh, yes, Mr. Wyachuk.
Good morning, Mayor. Thank you. I just wanted to remind for people as they're logging in and signing in where we are as far as the tax rate percentage this morning. So after the discussions yesterday, $337,000 was removed from the capital budget for 2026. And currently the tax rate percentage for 2026 is 7.16%.
Fantastic. Thank you for that update. Only day one. Here we are, day two. Okay. I will pass it over to Madam Clerk with the first motion.
Perfect. Thank you, Mayor. So we'll start with the motions, continuation from the operating from yesterday. We'll have the decrease to the operational budget. And again, as the councillor sees their name up on the screen, if they could just read out their motion. Thank you.
Perfect.
Thank you. I'd like to move that the proposed 2026 community service budget be decreased in the amount of $50,000 for the purpose of reducing aquatic service adjustments. And just speak to it briefly. I think we've all seen, and the public has been able to review the report again brought forward as supplemental to our budget proceedings regarding service levels. And so this was an area of potential savings identified in one of our service levels that is traditional, that is, we're not mandated to provide it, but many municipalities do across the province and across the country. However, this is an area of our service that is being somewhat underutilized. I always hate to say that because there are always some folks that are using it, but when we look as a whole and the tax levy is applied to the whole community, I think it's important, we did some of this yesterday, that we look at areas where the fewest are maybe using something. And in my mind, bringing this forward is just to action the recommendations that admin had identified where we could adjust closing times at the pool for aquatics slightly on the weekdays and on Sunday, a little bit more so on Sundays with a minimum impact to users. My hope is too, there's still a lot of service available during the week, and that some of those, some of the demand from those users will be elastic where, some people that are using the pool currently after 6 p.m. on a Sunday might just move their usage if that time slot is no longer available. So the numbers are relatively small. We can dig them up if we need to, if people need to speak to that or review those numbers again. But this just actions it. And the reason it's a round number as opposed to the exact numbers identified in the budget is the recommendation did just come with a warning that we would need to consult the public, not consult the public, but communicate the changes, and so we wouldn't be able to likely activate the changes for January 1, so it won't be a full cost savings of the full amount in year one of the change. And so that's the reason for the $50,000 round number. So I hope you'll support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Penrod. So what I understand you to say that it is just a reduction in the services that has the least impact on our community in terms of user times and things like that, which I think is a wise way to do it, to start off with. And I'm assuming then the dollar amount will follow up with some kind of a recommendation. Is that something that we need later on in terms of the change in times, or is that just something just administration does? Do you understand my question? Go ahead.
Thanks. It may be best for Mr. Suter to speak to that, but I think on recommendation from the clerk, I kind of had it all spelled out in the motion, but was recommended that we keep it high level for our motion and not have the operational details in there. Just again, kind of being clear of what council is directing and then operations. But it is my understanding that this is clear enough to say this is very targeted to those changes that are identified in the service level report.
Okay.
And recommended
As
there.
long as we note that those are the ones that is targeted. Thank you. Councillor Van Newkirk.
Yeah, thank you. Just a question for administration on that. Want to just double check that any of these proposed changes wouldn't affect any user groups or rentals or historical users of the pool, I guess, at that time. Thank you.
Ms.
Yeah, no problem.
Is that? Number 7. Mr. Suter.
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning, Mayor and Council. Yeah, specific to this, administration had reviewed aquatic operations and looked for some efficiencies and some opportunities that would be both a balance between cost-saving potentials as well as minimal impacts to the community and the users. And to that motion specifically, yes, that's a round number, Councillor Penrod, you're right. And that is based upon the fact if we action those two adjustments to service levels, closing Monday to Saturday at 9 p.m. instead of 10, and Sundays closing at 6 p.m. instead of 9. By the time we would action that to the community as far as informing them, then there's likely going to be, that 50,000 could be a good close to number on those two items. Specific to your question, Councillor Van Newkirk, typically those hours are just public swim. Kind of community spontaneous use, if you will, right? So that's why those numbers are quite low. If we're seeing any impacts that we haven't anticipated, it's something we could always bring back for a conversation if need be. But at this point, we were quite confident that this would be quite minimal to the community.
Thank you for the clarification.
Councillor Hyde.
Yeah, I can. Looking in the rearview mirror, obviously this makes sense, but looking forward, I don't think it does. And the reason for that is because we are getting larger as a community, and Leduc County as a whole is getting larger. Public swim is a part of that, and bringing people in. A lot of seniors do come to public swim, do those type of things. I don't know the total facts of how many users are in that hour or in those 3 hours. Mr. Suter, maybe you can speak to that, but we're trying to increase service levels within Beaumont, not decrease them. So $50,000, yes, it is an amount of money. However, are we reducing our services to our constituents and Leduc County's constituents by reducing this number? Paul, if you don't, are you able to look into what that looks like as far as the amount of people that are using the pool? I know right now nobody's using the pool, but before, in those hours and in those extra hours on Sunday.
Yeah, thank you for the question through the mayor to Councillor Hyde. For the adjustment Monday to Saturday, moving from 9 p.m. closing moving from 10 p.m. closing at 9 p.m., we estimate would likely affect about 95 people per week that would be affected by that earlier closure. And on the adjustment on the Sunday hours from 9 p.m. to 6 p.m., estimating again about 101. Now again, it would be ebbs and flows throughout the year on that, but that's sort of an average number that the team looked at. So.
Yeah, and 198 people. That's a significant amount of people that are using the pool at those times, and for that reason I can't support this motion. I think that we're going to go up, not down in services, so I can't see this as a significant savings over the 200 people per week that or so that will be using this service.
Thank you, Councillor Hyde. Any other debate around this motion? Okay, I think we're ready to vote. I'm sorry, Councillor Penrod, did you want to say anything?
Yeah, thanks. I'll just take a quick moment to close. Appreciate the brief debate on this. I'll just remind Councillor Hyde that we're budgeting here only for the 2026 year. There's not necessarily a carryover. We could adjust these service levels back up as our fiscal situation improves. Currently, by your argument, we'd be asking current residents to pay for usage of future. So currently, our administration has, with a sharp scalpel, identified some possible savings for us in this budget that would impact current residents and the current levy. And they've identified here an area that there's granted some usage, but minimal, and I would argue fairly elastic usage. So folks can adjust their usage in these kind of open, the name of it is not going to come to me. Paul has a great word for that use, just when we have designated time for people to come in and use in a leisure capacity, unplanned play. So that can be elastic use, so folks can adjust according to the schedules that we make available. The other piece is, you'll notice as a theme for me, I'm trying to identify areas, just like we did yesterday with transit, where we have services that are highly subsidized. So a lot of the whole community pays, but a relatively small portion of the community use it. I think those services are vital that we provide, but I think it's only fair that if we're looking for savings, that those are places that we target. We were unanimously agreed on that on transit yesterday, and so I hope to gain your support on this motion today.
Thank you, Councillor Penrod. Okay, so we will vote. And that passes 5-2. And I'm sorry, Madam Clerk, I can't see the opposed. Hyde and, two opposed, Hyde and Murray. Thank you. All right, we'll go to the next motion. And Councillor Murray.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that the proposed 2026 PD New Industrial Commercial Area Structure Plan development be removed in the amount of $200,000 from the 2026 operating budget. I've put this forward because, as we know, we're going to be doing some work, if it gets approved, on the municipal development plan, as well as our land use bylaw and a few other important documents. I believe that this area structure plan is going to be using some of the information that comes from that municipal development plan in order to develop it properly. And if we're going to be using what we currently have, we're going to be basing it on basically old information. So my proposal is that we bump it for this year and put it into 2027 when we have a clearer idea of what our land use bylaw, municipal development plans, as well as some of our IDP plans and things like that. So hopefully you can see that there will be an advantage in cutting this out of the budget this year, and you will support that.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Councillor Van Nieuwkerk.
Yeah, thank you. I'd just like administration to comment on what we heard in the opening there. Can you speak to the using old MDP info on a new ASP and what the realities are there? Thank you. And then I'll have a follow-up.
Sure. Thank you for the question. Currently, as we've talked about with the MDP, it does talk a lot about Edmonton Growth Board. It maybe has older stuff regarding density. The density targets obviously won't apply to a non-residential area. But we are as we've discussed before, we need to do holistic and comprehensive amendments to make sure that the vision for the community is reflected in our current documents. There's been a lot of changes. It's a lot of work that I think we're proposing there. Ideally, the municipal development plan should set that vision that the statutory plan responds to. We're just trying to advance more serviced employment lands. So that's my long answer. Ideally, MDP first.
Okay, and then can you speak to the impact of not doing this work in 2026? What would that mean to the big picture of what the city is trying to accomplish right now?
Ms. Raymond?
Thank you. The big picture is that we'll probably be a little bit slower on bringing on some more non-planned, non-residential lands. Those do take time, but that does enable the department to free up resources to have more of that community conversation, work on some of that additional asks. So be able to concentrate on the other high priority items that council has identified.
Okay, sounds good. I'll stop for now. I probably have another question after.
Thank you, Ms. Raymond. Thank you, Councillor Manuka. Councillor Penrod, and then Councillor Hyde.
Thanks, Councillor Murray, for bringing this forward. I think we had some good discussion and questions around this yesterday, so I think it's at least worth putting on the table and debating. Can administration confirm for me what I think I heard yesterday is that this work, if approved, would put an ASP on the land, which would increase the value of the land. Would that in and of itself, because as I understand it, we don't own any of those lands, would that increase or decrease or leave unchanged the ability to get that land serviced and starting to generate more non-residential income for the city?
17.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. What it would do is doing the ASP increases the value of the land. Doing the ASP perhaps next year increases the value next year. From a building out the city portion, we would still keep working with landowners. We would still keep looking for opportunities. Should something come up sooner where it would be we would bring it back to council. So we're not going to stop working on the land. It sets us back one step, but there are a lot of important documents underway. That is a very valid point. So if we hold off for a year, we would definitely bring this back to council next year as let's go forward with this now. And we would just continue to operate like we are in all other areas of the city that don't currently have an ASP. So we still continue to pitch all lands, and should something land, we would bring that back to council.
Yeah, so two issues here. One, we've identified one of our major impediments to expanding that non-residential tax base is lack of serviced land and available. And so this ASP gets us kind of half a step towards there, but I think what we heard yesterday is it doesn't solve the servicing question for these parcels. And so that's where I think Councillor Murray's argument to maybe delay this work in a year where we're already biting off a lot. And I'm always concerned, we haven't yet, I think, been able to, in some ways, fully staff up some of these really busy departments that we have. The employees that we have do a commendable job. I don't see residential building or planning or commercial builds slowing down a whole bunch year over year. So planning and development has their work cut out for them without this additional piece, I think. The last point I wanted to make, or question I wanted to ask, is how are these lands currently designated? Are they agricultural holding?
Ms. Raymond?
And they're currently zoned agricultural holding, and then they're designated as industrial business in the employment area in the MDP.
So what does that mean for how they're taxed, property tax?
Taxation is based on usage. So they would be based on whatever they're using it as, so they would be based on agricultural land.
Which I think is our lowest mill rate, correct?
Yeah, our agricultural land in our annexation areas, and I can let Mr. Bahachek talk about this one a little bit more. We have a taxation agreement with Leduc County for the annexation properties, where it's the lowest of the tax rate for a 50-year time span from that date of that annexation. So it would actually be based on whose mill rate was lower for the ag land.
So although, if I'm putting that together right, although the ASP increases the value of the land, that would have no or minimal impact on our levy for this year? Or
Yeah.
for the near term?
Assessment is based on improvements to the property and is based on the usage, and they don't trigger into Beaumont tax rates and lose that tax 50-year exemption until they go to develop their land further. So they can continue doing what they're doing. They can subdivide out their farmyard for, estate planning purposes, but as soon as they start to develop it in accordance with our bylaws, then they would trigger into Beaumont tax rates and based on improvements.
Thank you. And Mr. Bahachek, do you have anything to add to that?
I'm sorry, what number are you? 15? Number 8. There you go.
Through the mayor to Councillor Penrod, so yes, agricultural is the lowest mill rate on our roll from that perspective.
And am I correct in where I'm going? Or can you just speak to what the impact this change, other than taking the $200,000 out of the operating budget, what impact it would have on our tax levy?
Through the mayor to Councillor Penrod, regardless of what this motion would do, and even if it changed the usage, and Ms. Raymond already spoke to that, assessment is based on usage and not the thing. If, let's say that theoretically it did change and there was a different tax, it wouldn't change our tax requirement for operations. It would change how the bill was received by the residents through the community, as it would be restructured, rebalanced based on the mill rate calculation when we do the property tax bylaw in the spring. So changing the structure here, even if it had that impact, which it doesn't, wouldn't change the tax levy. So there is no impact regardless to this motion of how the revenues that we would be collecting.
Yeah, I guess what I'm saying is, in the next 3 years, if this work doesn't get done in 2026, do you anticipate there being a significant change to the taxes we can collect from these lands?
No, and again, the taxes that we collect from the lands is based on what our revenue requirement, and so the zoning, this doesn't change, unless they change their usage, their taxation wouldn't be adjusted from that perspective, so no.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you, Councillor Penrod. I would have to agree that even with what Ms. Raymond said, is that we're kind of putting the cart before the horse. Thank you for bringing this forward, Councillor Murray, because I think this is a great place where we can push that aside and focus on the things that we need to do this year in terms of the MDP and the land use bylaw, and I think those are going to take a lot of time and resources, so I would support this. Councillor Hyde.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, with the ASP ask here, is there, I mean, a lot of these come together, but is there some work that can be done with this in conjunction with the other ones at the same time? Or is it something we have to do totally separate? I'm just looking at saying one does affect the other. So why aren't we saying, I'm going to look at this side on the right hand, left-hand side, I'm on this side. How do they affect each other? Rather than pushing one off until the next year and going back and looking at it. Because there's such a correlation between the way that we're going to put together the MDP and the ASP. I want to make sure that we're not able to actually work with them almost at the same time, sort of an idea. Well, this affects this, so we're going to do this, sort of an idea. I think, is that too confusing to do that? Or is it something that we could say, we're doing all these together and they're going to affect each other. So how does this decision on this side going to affect this decision on this side? And it allows us to be able to have a better understanding of how the two correlate. So I'm just wondering how that may be able to work.
Yeah, through the mayor to Councillor Hyde, I can provide you a really big picture analogy, it's not going to be as great as what Mr. Bahachuk tells you. But if you're looking at it as, it's quilt almost, we get more defined as we go down in the layers, right? We're at 30,000 foot view up here, right? It's kind of blurry. It's broad paintbrush strokes at the MDP level. It's really big picture, really good feeling things about how we want the community to develop. And then somebody takes that and they look at it through the area structure plan process and they start applying more detail to it. And it gets, the picture gets more defined. We can see more details within that at the area structure plan level. So we'll have conversations with landowners about how they envision, future development to look on their properties, what their goals are. That stuff that would go into that land use concept is part of the area structure plan, but a lot of that stuff needs to be based on servicing, which is where we can have some of that information, be ready to go. There's efficiencies there that we'll still be able to do to take forward. We've also actually got some other background work from when we worked on the Innovation Business Park as well. We've already looked at some of those lands. So we can have that conversation, but we won't be able to get into the nitty-gritty specifics and those policies because it's really about how that area will develop over time. And it does confuse that conversation a little bit. So conversations to be had, but I would not recommend that we would get into that level of what would be in that area structure plan.
Okay, so having said that, we need to finish the one before we start the other, basically.
It would be better if we did that. And there are ways to move that in parallel. You can see through our budget proposal that the MDP is going to take place over a number of years. We're going to get to a place where we're going to understand more. There's going to be more background work, draft items that are already in flight, so we don't have to wait till that third year before we start any other work. So, we can understand more and then run things in parallel, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the only consideration I have with this, and to Councillor Murray's point, I understand it a little bit better now, is on the economic development side, we're pushing some of that down the road, which makes it a little bit confusing for our developers and those. Is that correct? It'll give them some pause, maybe to wait until we have a proper ESP out there, or do you think that they are more likely to say, no, we're not worried about that? So.
Through the mayor to Councillor Hyde, it will really depend on the developer. So we've had a number of areas in the city come online and we have developers looking at doing ASPs on their own as well. This was a lift we were just hoping to take a step forward, but this can be done at any time. So if we find a developer interested in these lands, we can bring back that ASP process. So it's not a deterrent completely, it's just we're either one step closer or we're not. So it'll depend on the developer coming in. More seasoned developers are pretty familiar with having to do the whole process. So it's something we'll continue to look for.
Perfect. I just wanted to make sure that we weren't putting another roadblock in front of developers or any type of structure that we're bringing into town. That's my biggest concern, is I don't want any more roadblocks.
Just building one less bridge.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you, Councillor Hyde. Councillor Natalenbos.
Perfect. Thank you, Mayor. The question I had for Mrs. Niesink was answered. Basically, I just wanted to clarify that the opportunity still exists and it doesn't detour, I guess, potential candidates, and that doesn't seem to be the case. Second question would be for P&D here. Just curious, if we remove this project, would that give your team the opportunity to accelerate some of the other things such as LUB and the MDP?
Sorry, I turned myself off there. We would need to take a look at that. It would definitely increase efficiencies and help us run those projects better. Yeah.
Perfect. So I guess in summary, in short, it sounds like minimal impact if we delay it for just 1 year, opportunity for 200,000 cost savings, and provides more focus on some of the more critical items that we've talked about throughout this entire election. So I'll be in support of this motion. Thank you for bringing it forward.
Thank you. Councillor Van Newkirk.
Yeah, just kind of a final question. Like, we've had a good discussion around this one. Just a general question to administration. Is there anything else that we haven't considered in the conversation that we've had there that should be brought up? I don't think so. It doesn't feel like it, but I just want to ask that one last question because this made it on here. So this budget was really scrutinized, and this item made it on to, made it on as a 200K funded piece. So just really want to make sure that there's not something that council is missing here.
Ms. Raymond.
Through the mayor to Councillor Van Newkirk, no, I don't believe that you're missing anything. I think when we were preparing the budget, we are looking at really trying to meet all of these different demands for the community, and we were hoping to be able to leverage some of that and be able to utilize some expertise out of the Economic Development Department. As Ms. Niesing said, council wishes to propose that, postpone this and not fund this year. That's perfectly acceptable as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other debate? Councillor Murray, would you like to close it out?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for a lot of the good questions that helped to even clarify some of the things that came up as we were discussing it. So basically, as a recap, we have confirmation that our municipal development plan is going to be sort of the key starting point for some of our plans that guide the city in our growth, especially in that area of industrial and commercial areas. Bumping this over to next year, I think, will help to clarify the work that we're going to do on an area structure plan there, as well as we heard from Ms. Raymond, it will help to work a little more efficiently with some of the work that we'll already have done by that time. So again, I think this is a good way for us to lower our tax rate, be efficient, and not, so to speak, shoot ourselves in the foot. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Okay, we are ready to vote. And that passed unanimously. Thank you, everyone, for the robust discussion, debate. Mr. Boyachuk, let me just, okay.
Thank you, Mayor. So again, for those baseball scorekeepers, after the last two motions, we're sitting at 6.36%.
Yay, team. Keep going. Thank you for that update. Councillor Murray, you're up again.
Thank you. I move that the following change request be removed from the operating budget. 2026 INF Park temporary service reduction in the amount of $258,903. I am considering this. This would actually be an increase in spending, if you haven't already noticed, for our infrastructure department. Looking at this budget and our future and the overall cost that it's going to take to keep this city and its assets at the best level possible, I just feel that it would be smart for us to bring some of these services back into the budget for 2026. A lot of our residents, these are the types of reductions in service that they will notice, even in small pieces, and we may end up hearing back from them in a negative way. I understand this is kind of a big ask, but I do feel that if we're looking at service levels for the residents here in Beaumont, we're going to be playing catch up if we go ahead with this reduction. So I do hope that you will support this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Yeah, just a point of clarification. Is this a reduction? Councillor Natellenbos, you want to speak to that? You just pointed something out there. Oh, Jay, I'll let you speak to it.
Thank you, Mayor. So, yeah, this is, while it's to remove the reduction is the motion here. So we requested, there was an increase, 500 and some thousand for park service, and then this is to reduce that increase down by 258,000. So by removing this, we'd be putting it back up to the full value. So it is an increase to the budget. This motion represents an increase to the budget, but not having that short-term service impact in 26.
Okay, thank you for explaining that. Councillor Penrod.
Thanks, Mayor. Given that information and clarification, I want to thank Councillor Murray for bringing this forward. I would prefer to deal with all of the motions to reduce the operating budget before we get into motions that would increase it. And so I would just ask that we table this motion. I look forward to debating it. I think it's I think you might get my support on it, but I would like to table it for now so we have the best information on decisions we've made to whittle down the budget before we look at where we could potentially invest. Thanks.
Yeah, good point. So, Madam Clerk, I just want to clarify with you that we still have some reduction motions, that we can follow up with.
And thanks for that. I meant to ask that question before I moved to table. So.
Yes, Jay, go ahead.
So as I talked to at the start of the operating discussions, that we had ordered the motions to reflect kind of service reductions and then additions, and then what administration would term as the solve or the solution, which doesn't really service impact or anything, but it's more around the items that we had tabled or left to the end, where reserve management, which is a fluid piece that just impacts the financials but not necessarily service, and compensation, staffing and compensation. So those were the ones at the end. So that would be, if council would like to go to those now, we might have to revisit if we don't get to a number that you feel is appropriate as a final position. So that's why we left those ones to be to the end, once all of the other decisions were made, and then we could determine if they need to be big or small or exist or not, and from that perspective. So that's the order that we had laid out. And we're open to discussion.
So, yeah, I'm not able to wrap my brain around that right at the moment. Did you want to speak?
Yeah, so I believe what Jay is trying to say here, and you don't mind me using your first name, do you, Jay? Okay, there you go. So we're all on a first name basis here. Anyways, not really. The last levers for us to be able to pull are the ones that he's talking about. So if at the end of the day, we come to a number and we're saying, well, we need to pull this lever, which is less money to reserves or personnel, those would be left to the last in order for us to be able to use those levers. If we pull those levers now with a number, the percentages may change throughout the day depending on how much we want to increase or decrease certain things, right? So then we have to go back to those motions and maybe adjust that lever again at the end of the day. So we're just leaving that, which is our kind of, if you think about it, it's the emergency door.
And if I may, there's
Yeah.
rules around redebating a motion, so we're saving those ones to be the end. That because
Okay.
if we adjust reserves, for example, we adjust reserve contributions, we add all of the other items. We're like, oh, we didn't adjust enough. we've already made that motion, the reserves, that lever's gone now, right? It's a one-time use, right? So it's about saving those pieces to the end after we have a clear understanding what the landscape is for all of the increases at this point now.
Okay, so I guess we just need to decide if we're going to move forward right now with this as recommended. Does anyone want to speak to that or consensus on that?
Yeah, again, I would definitely want to leave these two levers till the end because of the rules around the motions and such. So I don't really want to visit those two things that we were speaking about until the end. So those are reductions, and I know that we've been talking about doing all the reductions right now, but I prefer to leave those two motions until the end of the day, just to see where we're at.
So leaving this one?
I'm sorry?
Well, you said those two, leaving this one as well, or no?
Just confirmation.
So to
Just
continue with
confirmation.
the motion that was on the table to talk about increases to budget. So this,
Right.
the preferred approach now would be continue with what would we like to add to the budget so that we get here's what the things, if we add them all, and then how do we get down to a number that works for council? So if we go backwards, if we do all the reductions first, then you're adding, and then there's no way to make adjustments at the end. Or it reduces the amount of available options for adjustments at the end.
Okay, I'm just going to go to Councillor Natellenbos. Did you want to say something with this, and then Goldsmith?
No, I think just if we could come to consensus across the team here, how we want to approach this. Do we want to talk about it now or down the road? So I would just ask, Mayor, if maybe you could see where we're at as a team.
Yeah, so do we want to continue with this motion right now? Yes?
I'm okay with it.
Yes? Okay, we'll continue on then. Thank you for the
Thank you, Mayor.
clarification. Having agreed upon that, we will continue and then open it up for debate. Mr. Cole-Smith and then Mr. Natellenbos. Councillor Natellenbos, yeah.
Thank you, Mayor. I've lost my place a little bit here with all the discussion. Thank you for bringing this one forward. You know, when the reduction in service was proposed earlier, it gave me pause, so I'm glad to see this being discussed. The reductions, the temporary that were proposed, can you just speak to the, you know, if you save a few bucks today, it's going to cost you more to get caught up tomorrow? Is that the effect of these, or can you speak to that a little bit?
Who would like to? Go ahead.
Through the mayor to Councillor Cole-Smith, to some degree that's the case. We will also see some impacts, real-time impacts through the season. As discussed previously, and I can go through the impacts again if requested. We will see impacts to sports fields, parks, so on with weeds and lack of fertilizer and aeration activities as previously discussed. As we talked about, the tree planting efforts would be impacted, line painting efforts would be restricted to high priority and safety issues, things like that. Some of them will be cumulative and have longer term impacts to catch up. Others will just be, there won't be lines painted next year in some areas, whereas there would be. In the case of using line painting as an example, if we, as I indicated, these were proposed as one-time reductions to be proposed again in 27 for reintroduction. So in the case of, say, line painting, as soon as 27 came along, we would paint those lines again and we'd be back on track. In the case of things like green spaces, open space areas, reducing those services would have a longer term impact because we would see through the 26th season, we'd see a degradation of turf quality that takes time to recover, right, with weeds and fertilizing aeration activities and so on. So I'd say it's a bit of both. There's going to be some instantaneous impacts as well as some longer term impacts depending on what the service level that's impacted that we're referring to. Does that help?
It does help, thank you. Particularly the bit about the sports fields and the tree planting and how that might impact people. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Natellenbos.
Perfect. Thank you, Mayor. As a user of a lot of these fields, I've gone to other communities outside of Beaumont, other municipalities, and some of the fields are absolutely terrible. And it's a point of discussion across anyone that uses these fields. So, question in terms of if we're not able to provide things such as line painting and general maintenance, are we going to allow user groups the opportunity to take care of some of these fields, or would that be prohibited?
I'll let Mr. Pisantini take that one.
Sorry, where are we here? Number 5? Thank you.
Through the Mayor to Councillor Natellenbos. The example Aaron provided, Mr. Lukey provided, with line painting is more in reference to roads. We are still going to line paint sports fields. But through recreation, we are exploring opportunities to work with our user groups and our partners to provide the highest level of service that we are able to. So there have been discussions and they are ongoing with user groups about partnering, coming to the table and joining efforts so that we can provide the highest level possible.
Okay, perfect. So are you able to clarify then what the true impact will be? Did I hear you right? There will be line painting still?
Yes, line painting refers to the road, the pavement marking. We're still going to line paint sports fields. The impact specifically for sports fields will be fertilizing, aeration, industry standard turf maintenance practices. They will not continue, so we won't be able to improve the quality of the sports fields. Our approach would be safety reactionary measures. So we're going to make sure that these sports fields are as safe as possible. However, we will be conceding some quality when it comes to fertilizing. Water is another limitation that we have. We don't have irrigation on all our sports fields, so we may see a slight degradation in quality, but we will meet any safety concern, potholes, any depressions, they will still be upkept.
Okay, perfect. And I guess next question for you, we see 258K there. Is there a meet in the middle number where we're able to maintain relatively the same kind of maintenance on these fields without impacting the ability for teams to play?
I can take that one. Through the Mayor to Councilor Natellenbos, what we tried to do with these reductions is we did break it down. Like this is the full number for parks and roads reductions, but that was broken down into several different reduction change requests. So we did try to structure it in a way that there was, it's not all or nothing, right? So there was one for weed control, there was one for, sorry, I don't have them in front of me right now, but weed control, snow and ice control was in there, line painting was another one. So there is a breakdown of what those reductions are.
Mayor, if I may interject here, we do have motions following this one that actually meet to all of those temporary service reductions. So after this one, we would go to the next one, and then for the roads, and then for the
Oh, my
facilities.
mistake, sorry. I thought this was for roads and parks. Sorry about that.
Just as
yeah.
just for the
But there
parks.
is several below the parks, like weeds and then sports field maintenance.
So I guess, Mr. Lewicki, is there a meet in the middle number that would still provide a high level of service for our field users? Because I don't see all those line items.
Through the Mayor to Councillor Natellenbos, this is an all-encompassing, to use the same word that Mr. Boychuk used previously, our right sizing. This number is to meet all our service levels. However, if you wanted to reduce it by a percentage, you're more than welcome to. I would take that away and try and provide the highest level of service possible across all my areas. Open spaces does encompass a very large portion, so if you were to reduce it by any number of percentage, I would take that away and come back, talk to the teams and come back with a plan to provide the most service possible.
Perfect.
Through the Mayor to Councillor Natellenbos. So basically, I'm just looking at what makes up the 258,000. So we have a weed control reduction citywide for 27,500. There's a tree planting reduction of 65,000 for renewal trees. There's a sports field reduction, which I think is somewhat what your focus is, which is for 22,500. And then there's a base budget resource reduction of 143,000, which it's a bit difficult because that base budget reduction includes an FTE that would support some of these other reductions. So to Mr. Pisantini's point, it might not be as clear cut as just picking and choosing. So we can get that fairly quickly, I suspect. But anyways, it is broken down into smaller pieces.
Okay, perfect. I will let other councillors ask questions, but I'm likely to have some more. Thank you.
Thank you. That was a question I had as well, if it impacts an FTE. So thank you for putting that up. Councillor Van Newkirk and then Councillor Penrod.
Madam Mayor, sorry.
Yes, yes.
Just to clarify, so just to remind everybody, so that there was an initial increase request, and I'll pull the number up here in a second. So Parks budget was originally requested to go in the numbers, reflects a $472,000 increase, okay, which is to right size the budget, okay, and that includes some staff, and I'll let Mr. Lubicki speak to how many staff that is. Then there is a corresponding administration recommended, recognizing that that's a really big number. We recommended a temporary decrease of $258,000, which also includes a staff member that was included in the larger ask overall. So the net ask will be one less staff than what we had, if to be fully right-sized, one less staff and then some service implications. I just want to make sure everybody understands this is a nuanced piece, and we presented it this way. We could have just presented the net of what we think we could get, but we really wanted to demonstrate what we need to be right-sized, right? So that there was clear understanding that this is what we need, and then we're willing to do a service adjustment rather than just quietly ask for the $200,000 net difference that we would get and not talk about services at all and what that means. So that's why it seems a little bit confusing, but we wanted to really get that story out there of why it's like this. So.
Thank you for that clarification. I'll let you speak to that first, Councillor Natellenbos.
Perfect. Thank you, Mayor. So I know, Jay, you've already touched on this, but this is a scenario where in future budgets, you said it's a working document, that was your first year, but would really appreciate that additional information so that we can better interpret it. But again, not judging what's been put forward because I appreciate it, just asking for some improvements down the road. Thank you.
Yes, CAO Schwartz.
I wanted to just build off of what Mr. Bohocek just said. When we looked at, I think we've shared this number, but I'm going to share it publicly anyway. When we looked at what we needed to right-size our organization to be able to meet the service levels, it came to a 22% tax rate increase. Obviously, not something that's palatable. So what we did is put a plan, a staged plan together to ask for, as Mr. Bohocek said, more in this area this year, more in that area this year, to keep the tax rate manageable. We've been able to do that under the 1.9% to operating, using growth and another number of other levers. But we do have a plan over the next 3 to 4 years to get up to that 22%. So this is part of next year's request, if you will, or future years. So thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Van Newkirk.
Yeah, thank you. What I was going to speak up about was actually, spelled out quite nicely by Mr. Bohacek there. For me, when this idea was first shared last week, it caused me pause because I'm huge on turf maintenance, and I was trying to wrap my head around how are we going to let something that. Let me pause there. When I first got elected, the turf fields were in horrible shape. There was gopher holes in some of them. There was weeds everywhere. Hadn't seen fertilizer. I don't know if they'd even seen an aerator. Over the years, we've come to some of the nicer turf in the region, I think. And safety issues are big, juicy dandelions. That only is sorted out with spraying weeds, and that's just the fact. So when we speak to safety issues, I guess maybe that's a question. If we start getting a huge patch of dandelions on these fields, are we going to pull in spot spraying and deal with those?
Through the Mayor to Councillor Van Newkirk. We do have, through our base budget this year, there is money for spot spraying of weeds and the treatment of those products, yeah.
And then this fall, was there a fertilizer and spraying program that went through all the fields this fall? Usually that's done at the end of the year.
Through the Mayor to Councillor Van Newkirk. Spraying was done this year, but fertilizer was not.
Okay.
We had some unexpected bills come up earlier in the year, and this was one of the things that we weren't able to complete.
Okay, yeah, so that helps me. So the spraying was done at the end of the year, so that's gonna help, you know, hopefully the spring crop of dandelions, and if there's some spot spraying available, I know that doesn't happen overnight, but anyways, where my head goes with this is I've tried to wrap my head around what it means to not have lines painted on the road, because we've had an email from, well, not an email, multiple concerns from residents about lines not being painted. But again, my question is going to be, you know, my question on that will follow later, because this is just parks. But let me collect my thoughts here. Took me a while to wrap my head around this service decrease, but I'm on board with the service decrease. So that's the succinct way that I can see it. This motion here would reinstate the service decrease and take our tax percentage that we've worked down back up. I understand the passion why. I thank, you know, Councillor Murray for putting this forward, but I have wrapped my head around the 1 year service decrease and what that could mean. So I wouldn't be supportive of this motion. My worry now is that if we start picking this apart, we're going to unseat the plan. And I think we just heard that from the CAO. And yesterday I spoke to we don't know better operationally, and I just want to remind council that we don't know better operationally. This staff is who takes care of the operational things. We don't know better, and that's my opinion, and I cast that wide brush around the front of the room, because the operational things happen over there. So I'll yield the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Van Newkirk. Did you want to speak to that, Councillor? I mean, sorry, Mr. Mike, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Just through the mayor to Councillor Tellenboss, I was just able to get a better answer to your question, so my apologies for the delay. So essentially, if we broke it out, there was 4 separate items that make up the 258,000. So there's a resourcing reduction, which is kind of a precursor to if we don't do certain things, we don't need another person. So that would be an extra 143,000 to this amount. And then there's sports field maintenance reductions of 22,500, tree planting reduction of 65,000, and weed control of 27,500, which I believe adds up to 258,900. To your point, what we would need to do the sports field support, and as Councillor Van Newkirk indicated, the weed control, which would overlap onto the sports field work, I believe that would be 193,900 as opposed to the 258, which would be essentially removing the tree planting reduction, the one-time tree planting reduction. So I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Again, I will make an amending motion after the fact, or now, Madam Clerk, but I see there's other folks that want to speak. So what do you suggest?
Just to clarify, you want to reduce the current number that's up on the screen? Is that what you're looking to do? Or what is your?
Correct, just the number.
Okay, so my first question would be to Councillor Murray and whether or not she would be open to a friendly amendment to reduce that number?
Yes, I believe I would, yes.
Okay, so if Councillor Tellenboss wants to discuss what number you would like to see that reduced down to, and then to see whether or not Councillor Murray would be open to that, and then have further discussion with council.
Perfect. With that being said, I appreciate everything that's included in that. So what I would like to propose is the budget less the trees, as much as I would like to see new trees come into the area. Yeah, I don't think it's as critical as the other items, and then I'll speak to the motion after the fact.
You have the number again, Aaron?
Okay, yes, I
You just need a number.
that number minus 65,000.
Is it 65,000?
I believe Mr. Lewicki said it would be 193 if we remove the tree.
Okay.
Mayor, if we could just have 2 minutes.
Sure, yeah. Is it okay if I ask a question, or do we need a break?
Can we take longer than 2 minutes?
Okay, you know what, we'll take a bio break here, a 5-minute break.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Just so you guys know, as you're doing this, my question is going to suggest that maybe we come at this like you did yesterday.
Okay, we're ready to go. If everyone could take their seats. All right, we're gonna get going started here again. You guys good? Okay, we're gonna get started. I need a gavel. I need a gavel. Put that on my list, but gavel.
If we could just get everyone to sit down so we can go ahead and continue. Thank you.
There you go. I agree. Back. So we just have I'm going to turn it over to the city clerk here regards the amended motion.
Does this... And Councillor Natellenbos, if you can let me know if this captures what you were hoping to achieve.
Thank you, Ms. Winter. It does. I know you had mentioned we want to leave it a little more vague than precise, but do I need to capture the line items that I want to make sure are there, or are we good with this?
My understanding is that with this number is reflecting by removing the tree renewal program only. I do have that within the motion because that would be what would be coming out of that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So I'm not sure, Mayor, if you want me to speak to this or if...
Well, it says Councillor Murray, so do we need to have this as Councillor?
Because it's a friendly amendment,
Okay.
there's it's still the same motion, so if Councillor Natellenbos wants to speak to it.
Perfect. Thank you. So just to speak to this again, Councillor Murray, thank you for bringing this forward. As Councillor Van Nieuwkerk had mentioned, our fields previously were in rough shape, and I'm quite proud of the fields we have, and so are the user groups that use it. I think putting ourselves backward will require a lot of recovery, and as Councillor Van Nieuwkerk had mentioned, we are relying on the advice of the experts, and the experts have told us what's not going to happen if we don't fund this. What happens if you don't fertilize? What happens if you don't treat weeds? And take care of the field as required. So it's critical, I think, to maintain the fields that we have and have the user groups be able to use them, that we continue to provide this 193. Just for clarity for folks that weren't watching or just hopping in here, there was an initial proposed budget, I believe it was 472, and then there was this reduction of 258. By putting this motion forward, I put a friendly amendment there. We are removing the trees, but we are making sure that our fields are being maintained and looked after so that we don't find ourselves in a deficit in terms of field maintenance in upcoming years. Thank you.
And just to clarify, we're not removing trees, we're just removing the tree renewal program. Sorry.
Correct. Trees will stay. No new trees.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we're going to open for a debate here, and we're going to first Councillor Penrod and then Councillor Hyde.
Thanks, Mayor. So Councillors Murray and Natellenbos for bringing this piece forward and for adjusting it through the friendly amendment. I think we're having some good conversations on the whole around this idea of temporary service reductions. Councillor Van Nieuwkerk's already spoken to that. I just want to zoom back for a second and ask a couple clarifying questions. Thanks to CAO Schwartz for talking about the staging of the plan that's come forward. Comments that I heard directly from residents during our council open house sessions were, woo, that's a big number. I sure wish you could kind of spread it out over several years. And we certainly heard that in email and letter communication we received as council as well. And so I think it's important to point out to the broader community and for us to remember that the administration has done a lot of work to address the structural issues in our fiscal plan through a staged approach. And this really is the first step of truing up our funding to our service levels, the expected service levels in the community. So my question, more specific questions are, what departments have included these temporary reductions? I know infrastructure for sure. Are there any other departments?
I'm wondering if that would be a secondary question, because regarding, we want to just speak to this motion first.
So the relevance here is just to establish we're reaching into a particular aspect of a global plan. So this follows on Councillor Van Nieuwkerk's comment that he gets a little uneasy with this because it risks unseating the whole plan. Months and months of preparation have gone into this, developing this plan for specific asks to true up budgets and then phase those in through over several years through temporary service reductions, right? So this is just me trying to establish how much risk is there of this particular motion unseating an overall plan.
Okay, maybe that would be the better way, in instead of asking how many other of these reductions in different areas, because I think that was a different question altogether, right?
Yeah, so I'm just trying to establish
Risk.
how many of these motions are coming and that. So if I could just get a question or a indication either on how many of these motions are coming.
Who's wanting to speak to this? Joanne? Joanne? Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. This might help provide some clarity. So we received motions, we put them in order that we received them, but then we ordered them as in decreases, then increases, and then as Mr. Bohacek had cited. As in ordering those, we lost some of the order in which we had received them. But what I want to let council know is that you do have the opportunity to reconsider a vote on a motion in the same meeting. So we have not adjourned these meetings, we have just recessed. So all of the days of budget meetings are one continuous meeting. So you can go back and reconsider a motion. As long as you are on the prevailing side, you can make a motion to reconsider. You then have to state the merits of why you want that motion reconsidered. Council would then debate those merits. And if there's a majority in favor of reconsidering the motion, then we go back and you re-debate the original motion and re-vote on it.
Thank you for that clarification. Does that help? Councillor Penrod?
No, so I just would like to clarify. I think it's a fairly simple answer if we give admin a chance to answer it. How many departments have proposed these kind of temporary service reductions?
So let me answer this question. We can loop back to the process. So through the mayor to Councillor Penrod, and CAO office can back me up with further commentary. When we were going through the decision-making process, a discussion that was recognizing the 22% was not palatable, so figuring out how to spread it over multiple years, but wanting to tell the story of what we need to get for right sizing for this year. And then the amount of effort and the materiality of the constraints. For example, so I have a very small budget. You could ask me to look at my programs and make temporary service reductions, theoretically, but mandated. But those adjustments wouldn't move the dial on as far as the tax rate. I have a very small budget, so my temporary service adjustments aren't going to solve the problem that we're trying to achieve. Infrastructure does have a very large budget, and it was determined that would be the best place to make the adjustments on a one-time basis that would have the materiality. So rather than death by 1,000 cuts across the organization, everybody having little tiny service reductions, we just went where we could do the most good with the reduction in a short term from a fiscal perspective, and then recover in the following year. So that's the long answer to the short one. That is, just infrastructure has these in the budget from planned service reductions.
Thank you, that helps me. I was maybe misremembering that perhaps protective services had some as well. So thank you. That clarifies that for me. Helps me think clearly about the motion in front of us. Second, we're forecasting in infrastructure, so I'm looking now on pages 41 and 42 of the budget document specific to infrastructure. There's a 4-year plan. This speaks to some of the phasing that administration has proposed. If we make this adjustment, how does that impact phasing? And if I could just simplify it, if council has the temperament or the courage to increase, take more of our medicine this year, then spread it out, does that actually turn down the asks in subsequent years in this department?
Go ahead, Mr. Lewicki.
Through the mayor to Councillor Penrod, the short answer to that is yes. Basically what this does, basically we were like, what does it take to make up the difference of the service level, the gap between service level and budget, and that's what we put forward in our base budget, and then the reductions brought that down. So basically, what this motion is defining is we would put that back to where it was minus the tree program. So like I said, the tree program was 65,000. So theoretically, we would still be running a $65,000 deficit to meet current service levels. That, however, doesn't take into consideration changing circumstances for 27, inflation, so on and so forth. But essentially, and this is for parks and open spaces. Roads is a subsequent motion, I think, that is coming up.
Thank you. I do appreciate that. And so that was to my next point, is that there are two separate areas in this proposed budget that contemplate a temporary service reduction. So my suggestion or my reflection, we handled a similar issue yesterday in our capital deliberations. Rather than presuming or forcing an action on administration, we kind of came with a number and asked administration to prioritize. I understand some of that has happened here with the friendly amendment, but I'm just wondering if that would be a more holistic way to approach. What I want to avoid is getting into a situation where we can be accused of choosing favorites. You know, like my family, my friends use the sports fields. I want to protect that. I know we've been working with several community members who are really concerned about how far we're lagging behind on our replacement tree program. So it's not an issue if you don't have a tree that's been removed 5 years ago from in front of your house, but it is if you have been fighting for those trees and been told, no, there's no budget. So that would be my suggestion, is that would be one way we could move, and that would probably be, I would take advice from the clerk as far as if that would be procedurally how to proceed on that front. I just wanted to offer that reflection. Thank you.
So is there an ask there for that you want them to follow up with, or just trying to get clarity on? Go ahead.
Yeah, I guess I would ask for some advice from Legal Legislative Services, how to proceed. Would that be an amendment to this motion, or vote on this motion and then bring a separate motion more to that effect? The effect of what I suggested.
Thank you, through the mayor, through to Councillor Penrod. I'm trying to wrap my head around what you're asking for. So correct me if I didn't hear it correctly, but you are wanting administration to look at these service reductions and come with a list of what our recommendations would be on where those cuts could be into, or I'm sorry.
Yeah, so what I'm recalling is the evolution of things yesterday when we had a particular area of the capital renewal budget that we were looking to trim. And what we decided was rather than identify from over here a particular item to remove, to identify a number. Which was roughly 10%, I think, and then suggest that to administration and allow administration to prioritize where to make that cut. And then they came back with that recommendation. So what I'm asking is if we could handle this in a similar way, recognizing that we're gonna be asked to vote on this motion and then, it sounds like, vote on another motion coming forward to address the infrastructure road temporary service reduction.
Mr. Boychuk, you want to speak to that?
If I could just, thank you, Madam Mayor. If I could just paraphrase what I think we're hearing. So similar to yesterday where administration come away and provide a recommendation of what we could not do. In this situation, it would be, so administration prepared the larger reduction, but if you're saying we're willing to give you some money back, where would you prioritize what you're giving back is what you're trying to say. So empower administration to provide a recommendation of what we would prefer the order of items in the program to come back for council consideration from that perspective. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's exactly what I'm suggesting. And just to my colleagues, this is not me trying to get around this motion. As I said off the bat, I want to support this motion. I think last year speaking for me personally, I voted to trim the budget back further ultimately than if I could do it again, than I would have, because we spent all year hearing about how services were challenged and where people didn't feel like they were receiving the services that value for the tax dollars they paid. So
Yeah,
I just want to be able to have all the information to be able to vote with a clear mind on what's before us.
Thank you for that. I hear that. And I think there's pros and cons to that, right? Because of the fact that just what we just went through right now in terms of itemizing, knowing exactly what was included in each of those reductions, I think is important. And what we do with that and what we hear from the public as to what may or may not be priority, it kind of takes that out of the picture if we just give them that opportunity to decide what they want to reduce. So that's my point, that's my comment on that, but I'm going to have others just chime in on this. So first of all, Councillor Hyde.
Through the mayor.
Yes.
To Councillor Penrod, sorry to interrupt. I just thought I'd provide a little bit more context here. With these reductions, and I know I've said this before, but I'll say it again. The idea is that we tried to find things that would, of course, any reduction will impact someone, but we tried to find reductions or consider reductions that would be less impactful to service levels or playing sports, that kind of thing. Some of these are more aesthetic, what have you. The intention is that we broke these out with the idea that we have prioritized. This is where we feel that we could reduce. But why we're bringing this to council is because we know you've heard from the public about what's important to them. And so this is where I think we're looking for some direction in where should we go from this. And I think that echoes what you were saying, Madam Mayor.
Exactly.
Thank you. I just wanted to
I appreciate that.
give some background.
I think if we proceed with this, because we were given the recommendation or the information that we could always come back and reconsider some of the motions as well, correct? As we continue in these 3 days. So I would just like to know maybe a consensus if we want to continue with this amendment, and then.
I'm able to ask just one final question?
Regarding
this.
Okay.
Yeah, so basically, this is a question for Mr. Piacentini. Sorry if I butcher your name. But you had mentioned that user groups may be able to, you've been working with some user groups to work with them as to, fertilizer, weed control, that type of thing. And also maybe some user groups around even the tree renewal program with schools and such like that. I think that there is merit in that. I'm just trying to a lot of times what happens is we push everything off onto government in order to do things, but sometimes we have to take control as user groups as well. So I'm just wondering, where is that conversation in this? And I understand there has to be expertise around fertilizer and all that kind of things, but if the fertilizer is dropped off on a spreader that was properly set, is there that appetite out there as well? Because I don't want to, I understand that you guys have put in a lot of effort in order for this plan to continue. And every time we're going to make a little adjustment here and there, it's going to make you have to readjust the entire plan again. So I'm not in support of this motion just for that fact that I think that there's been a lot of time and effort put into this over the next few years. But I just wanted you to speak to user group conversation.
Oh, sorry, I did the wrong number. Go ahead.
Through the Mayor to Councillor Hyde. There has been preliminary discussions. There's been ongoing discussions since I started here 3.5 years ago. There is nothing committal and there's no current plans that both sides are going to be held to. So there's always these discussions with user groups. There's always great ideas, but nothing committal at this stage. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I just want to clarify. So my understanding of these reductions is that this is kind of the bare minimum, what we need to do in order to have our service levels at where we want. Like, so these reductions are not necessarily going to affect those service levels in terms of where we feel we need to get up to. Is that correct?
To the Mayor, we did provide some service level impacts for all of the reductions that we provided. I have those here. Just give me a moment.
Like to right side our service levels. You want to speak to that, CAO?
So, were you going to?
Yeah, I'm just going to add that what we've built into the budget, into the 1.9 or 1.86 to operations, is an incremental increase to service levels. They're current service levels that we are not achieving because of our size and rapid growth. So then the ones we took out, these temporary service reductions, are just reducing our ability to get to full service and phasing it in over the next 2 to 3 years. So you will see the public in this budget of the 1.86 as proposed, you will see an increase in service. Next year, you'll see a further increase in service and so on. So,
Okay, even with these reductions, there will still be an increase
Yes.
in service. Okay, that's what I wanted to know. Thank you. Just one other question, and then I'm going to go to Councillor Van Newkirk and Cole-Smith. I noticed, and this may be in the other document that we received regarding contracted services and so on, I noticed that there is a place in there that covers weed control, tree planting, pruning removal, tree treatment. Is that secondary to this particular reduction in terms of, you mentioned a full-time employee? Is this a side issue? Is this supplementary to that? Or are they related?
Sorry, could you, I'm not sure what you're referring to.
Mr. Boychuk gave us a document that maybe you can, it's contracted services under parks.
Yeah, they're directly related, right?
So I'll take the first. So the supplemental materials that were provided for closed session discussion include contracts for weed control, as you mentioned. This would supersede that. The reduction would impact that contract, right? So in the change request in the system, it has just a reduction, and so this would be rolled out through and have an impact on that contract upcoming.
Okay, so I'm just trying to clarify personnel as opposed to contracted services, because you mentioned the FTE to follow through on these services, but this is a contracted service, so can you clarify that?
Well, the FTE that was proposed, sorry, through the Mayor, the FTE that was proposed was to accommodate all of the service levels that were proposed as part of the base budget. So yes, and maybe Mr. Paisantini can speak to this a little bit more about contracted services. I know we do contract weed services out, but I'm not sure if we do all of it or portions of it. I'll pass it over to Mr. Paisantini.
Thank you.
Yeah, through the mayor. Great question. So I believe, and I'm going to talk on Jay's behalf a little bit, and he will correct me if I'm wrong. The supplemental information you're talking about is our budgetary amount. So it's got amounts that we budget for each service. It's not a contract that I have with a particular tree vendor or weed control vendor. Those are my rule of thumbs that I typically spend. What we're looking to add is to right size that amount so that we can perform those scopes in full to our service levels. So there is a little bit of money that allocated to different services, but that doesn't reflect the actual spend. Those are our budgeted amounts. So when you'll see that, there's weed control already in there. That's not enough to do our entire service level, which is the full city and all the sports fields. So what we're looking is to increase that amount to something that is serviceable.
Okay, so this is an ask if we fall short and we need to contract services to get us to the right place in the weed control, the tree planting and pruning, removal, tree treatment. Is that correct?
To provide additional clarity, I think I understand your question a little bit better now. We do contract out weed control. It's not something that's performed in-house. On a grand scale, we do spot spraying for noxious weeds and garden beds by backpack, but when it comes to specialized equipment, specialized training and chemicals we can't get our hands on as operators, we do contract it out, just like tree removals, more specialized services.
And turf work?
Yep, turf work, so sodding, large-scale sodding, landscaping, all that kind of things that our team can't manage currently.
Okay, so there's two teams kind of working.
Yep, we have a team of operators. Our operating team is not enough to get through every single service we need to provide the city, so we do utilize contracted labor to supplement.
Okay, I think I understand. Thank you. Okay, Councillor Van Nieuwkerk.
Yeah, thank you. Hopefully I'm not the only one, but I'm kind of lost here. So I'm thinking that we should probably get back to the motion at hand here and have a vote. Because I don't know what more to say or do or go with this. Like, if we do an amending motion on the amending motion, or we could also put this as a subsequent motion, move it to the end. There's a few options that we have legislatively, but yeah.
I think we're still debating this particular motion, and my questions were pertaining to, because I saw two places, talked about FTE and contracted services, so I just wanted to clarify because that would affect if there's any other reductions in other places, so that was my debate on it.
That part I completely understood, and I'm with you on that train of thought, because I anticipate there'll be conversations later about FTEs and balance and all that kind of stuff, but we're gonna quickly lose track of that if we start adding and subtracting in pieces in the middle and then have to reconcile it all at the end. Not that it can't be done.
Yeah.
Anyhow.
That's a good point. So I just want to open it up for any debate, and then we will move into a motion. So I have Councillor Tellenbos. I'm sorry, Councillor Colesmith. Yes, go ahead, Councillor. CAO.
It was mentioned earlier about what other motions are coming down the pipe, and Ledge and Legal has advised that if it's of value, they're prepared to share all of the motions. If that will help your conversation and help to get you up and back to governance, we could do that.
I think that would be awesome. I guess we'd need to have consensus from council, correct? Yes? Yes, okay, we have consensus. So if you want to send those whatever way, email, or what would be the best way to do that?
What I can do is just to ensure that I'm not showing the councillor's name that's bringing it forward, because if they wish to withdraw it throughout, I can just go through the list right now verbally with council, if that works. There's not a ton of motions to go through.
It will be hard to remember if we could even just have it in an email or something like that, or in a Teams. It doesn't have to be right at this moment, I think, if we move forward with this one.
I will need some time for this.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, can we move forward with this motion first? And then, yeah, okay. I think we're in agreement on that. So then we'll give you some time to do that. So I'm going to go to Councillor Colesmith and then Tellenbos.
Thank you, Mayor. Just want to go back to a comment that was made at the budget presentations regarding this particular group and their budget over the last number of years. am I correct in my recollection that there hasn't been an increase to this group's budget since 2019?
Through the mayor to Councillor Colesmith, that is correct.
Okay, thank you. So since 2019, this group hasn't had an increase to their budget. I think it's fair to say they've found every efficiency, taken every scrap off the bone. And this year, even when requesting an increase to get back up to the service levels, they're still offering a reduction in being the team player. But it's taking away from services that we've all heard about during the campaign. So I think this motion, it's pretty easy for me to support and getting us back up to those service levels that we expect from a group that's, I think, done their fair share over the last number of years.
Thank you. Councillor Tellenboss.
Perfect, thank you. I just have one question, and then when we're ready, I'll have a closing statement. I'm just curious about the FTE role. Obviously, fields aren't open during winter time, and we put 143K to that role. Are we able to clarify what that consists of?
Through the mayor, Councillor Tellenboss, yes, the FTE will have an annual role. In the winter, the parks team, they look after all your boarded rinks, your unboarded rinks, city facilities, sidewalks, city parking lots, the dog park. There is a lot of landscaping work that could be done in the winter, a lot of tree pruning, tree removal. This team is at capacity all season round. In the future, we're looking at realignments. Currently, the roads team completes the trail network ploughing, and we're looking at, we could realign that with the parks team, and then the roads team with the larger equipment could look after parking lots. So there is, this FTE was looked at holistically in terms of an annual cycle, and there is a need for it in the winter as well.
Perfect. So just for clarity, because we're talking specifically about field maintenance here, this will actually provide additional service throughout the winter that we're not capturing here?
Through the mayor to Councillor Tellenboss, yes, this FTE will set us up like Penrod, Councillor Penrod said recently, it reduces the ask for next year. So next year we won't have to ask for an FTE, we'll just have to ask for additional materials and contracted services to keep up with service levels.
Perfect. So it sounds like we may potentially be killing two birds with one stone here. Can you please let me know what additional services this FTE will be able to provide over the winter time when they're not dealing with field maintenance?
Yep, through the mayor to Councillor Tellenboss, we have struggled recently with our ability to respond as quickly as necessary to facility sidewalks or parking lots. We've seen increased downtime in some of the outdoor rinks. They take a significant amount of manpower to drive that very slow tractor Zamboni through town to Zamboni all the surfaces. The added services we get will be quicker response time. So we'll get to minimize downtime of these assets, as well as take care of some of the items that we haven't been able to, which is specifically tree pruning in the winter. The parks team also do a number of other things, which includes, emptying over 300 garbage cans across the city. They'd have a weekly and a monthly and a daily schedule. Those times are not being met. So we're not doing our daily every day, we're doing them every second day, every third day. The weeklies are getting pushed to bi-weekly, and some of the monthlies are going to bi-monthly. So by adding this FTE, we'll be able to service the community as they expect. So we'll get to meet service levels.
Perfect. So would it be fair to say we see the temporary service reduction on the road side, which captures sidewalks and city-owned parking lots and trails? This individual would be able to assist with that deficit of service, I should say, that we've put forward?
Through the mayor to Councillor Tellenboss, can you repeat that question?
So there's another temporary service reduction unrelated to the park one, but some of the services you described, I would say would fall under that temporary service reduction that we've put forward. I'd imagine that FTE role would fall slightly into the reduction of service that we're trying to put forward.
I can help with that one. Through the mayor to Councillor Tellenboss, the FTEs asked for in the roads temporary service reduction is a separate role. So as Mr. Pisantini had mentioned, this FTE would be doing parks related work, not rolling into roads work. So I would say the answer to that would be no. And I also wanted to clarify that through the discussion, it maybe sounded like we would be, by adding this, we would be increasing a service level. I just wanted to clarify that all of these reductions, if put back, whatever reduction, would bring us up to a service level, not exceed the service level. Because right now, we do not have adequate resources and funding to meet current service levels. I just wanted to make that clarification. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. So I will just go with an ending statement here then. I feel if we do not fund this, we all know what'll happen. We'll tell everyone to go to the portal, or they'll go to the portal themselves. So we'll get ready for heavy traffic there. The response will be that it's resolved because there's actually no solution because we don't have the funding for it. And they'll likely be advised that council has voted to reduce this funding temporarily. So I can see all the user groups putting their concerns there, and there won't be a resolution. I think it's important. I know there was mention that things will be maintained, and I think it is a bit confusing because things won't be maintained if we don't fund this. We are going to have issues. We're not going to be fertilizing. We're not going to be able to take care of the general maintenance with the fields, and we're going to run into issues, especially with weeds. And anyone that's attended some surrounding municipalities have seen how terrible the fields are, and they're not even playable. So I think we would be doing a disservice to the community if we don't fund this. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Natalmbos. We're going to go for a vote now. So what we're voting on is would you mind just rereading again, since you're or I guess that would be Councillor Murray. Go for it.
Yes, that the following change requests be removed from the operating budget, 2026 INF Park temporary service reduction in the amount of $193,903, removing the tree renewal program.
And that passed with Councillor Hyde oppose. Thank you for that robust discussion and debate. So at this point, did we need to have a quick break for you to consolidate those motions so that we can have them? Yes? Okay. So we'll take a 5-minute break. Is that enough time? Yeah, 5-minute break. Thank you.
Mayor, I'm ready.
We're just going to take 1 minute to review what you sent us before we go live. Motions. So I will defer. Oh, Mr. Bohachuk, go ahead.
Sorry, thank you, Madam Mayor. Just an update on where we're at after all of the last discussion and motion. So currently for 2026, we are at 6.98.
Fantastic. Good news. Thanks for the update. So we're continuing with the operating budget motions. Mayor? Oh, this is Councillor Penrod?
No, this was a motion to reconsider one of the capital items that was brought forward. I'll let the councillor who wanted this brought forward speak to it.
Councillor Goldsmith.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I'm asking that we reconsider the INF cross-country ski trail new asset capital item. It was brought up yesterday. It was an addition, but it was brought up prior to all of the removals, so we couldn't, or at least I couldn't, give it the fair consideration I feel it deserved. Having gone through all of the capital deletions, I'm asking that we reconsider that motion now.
Thank you, Councillor Goldsmith. Councillor Talonbos.
Just a quick question for administration. I guess first off, are we able to share what the vote was on this originally? And then just to confirm, the reconsideration of motion can only be done from prevailing side, correct?
That is correct.
So I guess for the first one, are we able to share what the vote was?
Thank you. For the prevailing side of the vote, Councillor Natellenboss, Councillor Penrod, and opposed was Councillor Van Newkirk, Mayor Vanderhoek, Councillor Hyde, and Councillor Goldsmith, and prevailing side, Councillor Murray.
Perfect. So just for clarity, Councillor Goldsmith cannot bring this forward?
Sorry, my apologies, the other way around. Yes,
Okay.
Councillor Goldsmith can bring this forward.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Penrod.
Yeah, I'd be happy to reconsider this. I look forward to voting in favor of this motion so that we can reconsider.
Do you want to add anything, or do we need any debate on this? Go ahead, Councillor Penrod.
Yeah, so I will just point out, and I'm sure Councillor Goldsmith has considered this, there is an operating impact to this as well. So this is timely. We will reconsider it now, and then I had prepared a motion to speak to the operating piece that we could consider. Thanks.
Thank you.
So for reference, this is on page, just so I can get the numbers. Do you have them in the supplemental information? Oh, I got it, 115, page 115. Got it. Councillor Natellenboss.
Perfect. Thank you, Mayor. My only concern with this, although I did support this motion originally, is just the process that we're following. I don't believe that there's enough reason to bring this back alive. Had another motion come forward that was quite similar, or there was some misinformation or something that we weren't aware of, I would say we could bring something like this forward. But to me, it just seems like we're trying to have an additional vote and potentially a change in a vote that has already occurred. So for me, that's a bit concerning because I don't want this to become an accepted practice. So that's where my head's at right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Natellenbos. Councillor Hyde.
Yeah, I tend to agree with Councillor Natellenbos on this. I think we had a good debate and discussion on this already earlier, and I don't see any new information emerging from this unless there's something that administration would like to share. However, at this point, I'm still very much going to be opposed to this, simply because we have, again, allowed some grant funding to go to a ski trail that is servicing all of the Leduc area, properly maintained.
Mayor, if I
Point
may,
of order.
we're not going to be, we're not debating the actual merits
Okay, sorry, I
of the
apologize.
motion. We're just debating whether
Yeah.
or not we're willing to reconsider the motion.
Okay,
Thank
I'm
you.
not willing to reconsider the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Hyde. Thank you, Madam Clerk, for that as well. I'm of the same opinion in terms of I feel like this needs to be allocated, these funds. To add them would take away from some other priority things that I see in my opinion, another park. So I would not be bringing this back.
Final statement before we vote on it?
Yes.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that this is, not typical. I do believe it's valid to reconsider it, given that it was an addition. It was brought in while we were doing the deletions. I believe we considered it, we should have tabled it. We ended up tabling other motions that were of a similar nature to later on to have that discussion. We didn't do that with this one. And I feel it merits reconsideration based on that.
Thank you for that, Councillor Goldsmith. So at this point, what do we do? Do we vote on this?
Thank you, Mayor. The motion is on the floor. Council, if no further councillors have any debate on this, then you can call the vote.
Okay. Sorry, one more. Go
Yeah, just really quickly, I just, again, for clarity purposes, I just want to reiterate to everyone that this is just to bring the motion forward to be reconsidered again. It's not actually voting on the motion, but I just want clarity for people watching as well. Thank you.
Thanks for that clarification. Okay, so we are going to vote. And that was defeated 4-3. And Madam Clerk, I don't have a screen, so I rely on you.
Yes, it was defeated with Councillor Van Newkirk, Councillor Hyde, Mayor, and Councillor Natellenbos opposed.
Thank you for that update. That is the beauty, though. We can bring it back, so thank you for doing that, for the reconsideration. Okay, so we're going to move to the next. Did you have something, Councillor Penrod, did you want to say here?
Yeah, just a bit confused. I think we just altered our normal practice a little bit. Generally, it's only the folks on the losing side of the vote that are noted, but we named the prevailing side. So I'm just wasn't sure why we changed our practice on that vote.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Penrod, through the Mayor to you. There's nothing in the meeting procedures bylaw that states on how we read out the vote as long as the vote is read out and it's captured in the minutes.
Okay, we will move to the next motion. Go to the next motion, I should say.
I also did want to note that the email that I had sent with the upcoming motions might not be in order of what they were in the email. So just so you're aware of that.
All right. Is there any value, I'm just looking to the councillors here, my colleagues, any value in either one of these coming before the other in terms of impact? Councillor Tellenbas?
Thank you, Mayor. I would just say that the last two in the email, Madam Clerk, are quite similar in nature, but I think everything else is pretty independent of each other.
Councillor Van Newkirk?
So I just wanted to state that I did have multiple motions on that, and I'm prepared that if when one motion is moved forward, if there needs to be an amending motion on that, we can change those numbers, going back and forth. So I just wanted council to have full transparency on the motions that were on the table.
Thank you for that. Yes, Councillor Van Newkirk?
Yeah, I'll just say that in the email we got, if the fourth one down came sooner than later, it would probably be helpful to the group.
Well, the only comment I have on that is that we were also following the trend of going after the decreasing before increasing, and that looks like an increasing first, right?
No.
Yes.
So, to you, Madam Mayor, the order that's presented in the email are all additions at this point until we get to the last two.
I'm sorry, I just saw one that was a...
The reduction of the reduction.
Yes, the negative, exactly, thank you. Okay, point taken. Do you want to speak to that, Councillor Murray, or are you just queuing up here? You're queuing up.
I just want to confirm with Councillor Van Newkirk, is anyone opposed to that motion coming up sooner than later? I just want to get clarity on that. Or are we okay where it's at? It is further down on the list.
Yeah, I'm not sure what benefit, maybe you could speak to that, if anything. Councillor Van Newkirk, I'm not sure why.
Yeah, what I'll say is if I wasn't asking for $80,000 anymore, it would probably be helpful to the rest of you.
I see, okay. Sure. Everyone okay with that if we move that to the top of the queue?
Sorry, just procedurally, I do want to note, we don't have to move that motion.
Okay.
We can, if you're wishing to not have that motion, it just would not be included on the list and would be moved down to the other motions, if that makes sense for Councillor Van Newkirk.
Go ahead, yes.
Yeah, I'm just trying to be helpful here. I want to be able to speak. I'm hoping the motion will be presented. I can speak to it and share with the room what I'd like to do with it. So, you know, in not tipping my hand 100%, only 95%.
Hi, sorry,
Go ahead.
me again. So, Councillor Van Newkirk, you're moving this down to subsequent motions, therefore you would have an opportunity in subsequent motions because the motion has changed that we've been working on with you. So you would have that opportunity during subsequent motions on that debate.
Yeah, I get it. I'm trying to be helpful. What I would like to do is I'd like to speak to why I'm doing this.
Go ahead.
That's all I'm trying to accomplish here,
Okay,
guys.
yeah,
I'm trying to be
I would
helpful.
like to understand why you feel that would be better to do that one.
So that's fine. I just want to make a note, like we haven't moved this motion. We would not have an intention to move the motion if we're having a subsequent motion from it. So then therefore council, but when it comes up, you can definitely speak to it versus moving it.
I think we're getting lost in the terminology.
Yeah, I'm frustrated. I'm going to turn my mic off.
Go ahead, CAO. Sorry.
The suggestion I would make is that the chair can decide if we'd like to let Councillor Van Newkirk speak about his motion at this point in time. I think it'll clear this up quickly.
Sure. Okay, so what I understand, this is your motion, but you feel like it would be beneficial, so if you want to speak to it, why beneficial to put it to the top of the queue?
Are we able to display the motion? Thank you. sorry, gotta get my right window up here. Okay, thank you, Council. Sorry, that was cumbersome. So the motion before you is one I was going to present today. I'm going to rescind this motion. I would like to move it to a subsequent motion. The reason I would like to do that, I'll get to, but the reason this came forward from me is it's been very clear from the community that there's a feeling of disconnect in the conversation on growth. I don't think anyone up here disagrees with that. The community wants to connect more and in a different way outside of planned engagement. And we need to create a place for those conversations to occur. That's the spirit of this. Bigger picture, I really want and wanted to make sure that there was a plan before a solution. I heard those comments loud and clear from administration. I heed that advice. I take that advice, and I'd like to spend a little bit more time to get that right rather than just push something forward. So that's why, and I'd like to move this to a subsequent motion. Thanks for providing the room for that. And me not pushing for 80,000 here helps with the rest of what we're trying to do. That's all I was trying to do here, is be helpful to that. So thank you.
Thank you so much for that clarification. I appreciate that. So we can proceed. Councillor Murray.
Thank you, Mayor. That the following change requests be removed from the operating budget. 2026 INF Road temporary service reduction in the amount of $186,619. This is, again, a motion asking for us to actually put some more money into our infrastructure operations. Again, this budget is fraught with a lot of tough decisions, and we are looking at unable to maintain service levels that we currently have. And I believe that having this temporary service reduction go through for the next year is going to come back, and we're going to regret it. And so, yeah, I'm hoping to bring this back, bring our services up to where I believe they should be. And I think we'll have residents that support that, and we'll be able to see the difference.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Councillor Cole-Smith and then Hyde.
Can admin speak to the impacts of the temporary service reduction, please, and just detail those for us?
Mr. Lewicki?
Through the mayor to Councillor Cole-Smith. So this is made up of three separate pieces. One piece was an operator for our roads team, mostly to accommodate snow and ice control efforts. And then there was a third piece of that, which is the line painting. So there's resources, snow and ice control, line painting. The resource piece was reduced to $69,900. The line painting reduction was $60,000, and the one-time snow removal reduction was $56,800, for which I believe gives us that total of $186,619. So for snow and ice control, servicing for alleys would be maintained for one-way traffic. However, there would not be any full clears of the alleys in 2026, which is, I believe, what we did last year. But one-way traffic would be maintained as per the service level. And for line painting would be limited to 50th Street and a few other high-priority traffic areas, and no parking lot painting would be completed. And so the idea is that we've removed that portion of snow and ice control because doing a clear on those alleys is a significant amount of work. It's a completely different process than clearing a street because an alley is an inverted cross-section versus it's concave instead of convex, if that makes any sense. So there would be an additional resource would be needed to maintain that service. The line painting is contracted, but we do have to manage the contract and so on. So that, hopefully that provides some insight into what makes up this, this amount. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lewicki. Did you have further follow-up to that?
Can you just speak to the alley clearing? Is that's relatively new, is it not?
I'm going to pass that one over to Mr. Pisantini to give a little bit more detail on the alley clearing efforts. Thank you.
Through the Mayor to Councillor Colesmith. The alley clearing we do in spring. These alleys get lots of snow load over the winter, lots of garbage trucks in it. Residents sometimes have nowhere to put their snow, so it gets pushed into the alley. What we see is increased flooding in spring, so we have to go in there in spring and clear it. So like Aaron, Director Lewicki mentioned, the inverted swale cross-section of the alley makes it difficult, and it does take up a full team to break through that much ice and a number of pieces of equipment. The reduction did cover that.
And with this reduction in place, we'd still continue doing some clearing. It would just be to maintain the one direction of traffic, correct?
Through the Mayor to Councillor Colesmith, correct. We would be blading periodically to maintain one-way traffic to make sure that people can get out of their garages and their alleyway, and that garbage services and emergency service can have access, but we wouldn't be doing the full clear in spring if this reduction was to remain in place.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Through the Mayor to Councillor Colesmith, I also wanted to add that we have seen a 177% increase in alleys since 2021. So when we look at the challenges with doing that clear, it exponentially increases because of the growth elements involved. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Councillor Hyde?
Yeah, I'm going to try to articulate this a little bit better than previously the ask in previous motions. I think that we sometimes get caught up in the fact that, you know, what's it going to look like last year? What's going to happen with the portal? What's going to happen with that? But I think what we have to do is we have to look at the big picture going forward, and knowing that there is a plan that administration is trying to put forward that we can have better services in the future by having a little bit of short-term pain right now. And that's where I'm at. I'm not thinking about short-term next year, year after. I'm thinking that we need to look at our community in a 10-year plan and saying, if we do a little bit of short-term pain here, if we do a little bit of reduction here, we're going to have some funding for the future to go forward and service these areas that we have exponential growth in. I think that I believe that administration has come forward with a plan in order to do this over a long-term, short-term pain now for long-term gain later, and I think that's what we're hearing is trying to get healthy for the future. So if we continue to make decisions based upon next year, we're not going to get there. We need to start thinking much longer term than what we are, and I think that that's why I can't look at these motions and go, oh yeah, we want to do a temporary service reduction. Well, yeah, it's going to make a difference this year. There's no doubt about it. There's going to be little things that are going to happen, but if there is a plan in place to get to a spot where we are healthy and we're able to provide these services for many more years to come, I'm willing to take a little bit of a sacrifice now in order for that to be there. So this is why I can't support these type of motions, as I'm thinking long term. I'm not thinking what's going to happen next year and such like that. Yeah, there might be some complaints. I'm willing to take that for a long-term solution. So that's where I can't support these type of motions.
Thank you, Councillor Hyde. Councillor Natalenbos.
Thank you. Just a quick question for Councillor Hyde. I know you had mentioned we'll have better services in the future if we accept this temporary service reduction. Are you able to provide a little more clarity around that?
Well, I think that I'd put that to admin, to tell you the truth, because I think they have the plan that's going forward. So for me to jump into their brain and say, what is the long-term plan here as far as why this temporary reduction is and how it's going to benefit us in the future? I think that's admin's where they have to explain that.
Perfect, thank you. Operationally, we'll have better services in the future. Mr. Lewicki, if we take this reduction, can you confirm that we'll have better services in the future? I'm just trying to get a little clarity around that.
Through the mayor to Councillor Tellenboss, this reduction allows for some room in the operating budget. If this is not approved, which we did recommend that we could keep this reduction on, if it's not approved, we will be asking for it in 2027 to bring it up to service level. So by not doing this, we wouldn't be doing that full clear on the alleys, and we wouldn't be doing our line painting in full as we should for 2026. I don't know if I've answered your question specifically, but by not approving this, I don't see there wouldn't be any improvement. There would be a continued deficit of service. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think Jay wants to hop in behind you, but...
Oh. So, to you, Councillor Tellenboss, so when you elevate it out of the department area, so service is the aggregate, so I take the corporate view all the time in conversation. So one of the levers that we'll see will be one of the main components of the budget ask that we asked. The 8.87% includes a significant reserve contribution piece. Reserve contributions are largely for our infrastructure, which are the physical tools to deliver service. If we, for example, in this situation, if we put this back in and correspondingly offset a reserve transfer later on in the discussions, it's true that the day-to-day operations will be made more whole sooner, but we're denying ourselves or putting bigger pressure on our ability to do the physical assets that support the service delivery. So by a little bit of pain in the service delivery in this area to protect and put money into the bank in order to pay for those physical assets as we go forward, there is actually long-term service gain by not doing this one-time piece. That's the high-level corporate tactical strategy of what we did from that perspective. I don't know if CEO Schwartz has further at that, but that's the short-term gain or short-term pain, a little bit of service reduction to set us up financially for financial sustainability and a robust asset management plan is the long-term gain that we're looking for.
Perfect. Okay, and just to speak to that, I mean, obviously that doesn't include the amounts that we've allocated to potentially go or propose to go to reserves. This is in addition.
In theory, so those reserve conversations are going to be probably the last item that solve the tax problem, right? So we'll end up at a number, and that still might be too much that council feels is not appropriate for the residents, and then you say, well, you know what? Let's cut the reserve transfers to get that number down to a place where we want to be. If we don't add a whole bunch of things first, we won't have to cut that much from the reserves to get to that place where you want to be, and that will protect the investment, the asset management, and the infrastructure into the future. So that's the piece that we're debating is the short-term pain versus the long-term service asset fiscal health gain. That's the perspective that I think Councillor Hyde is speaking to.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And Mr. Lewicki, just a question, two questions. Just for clarity, my understanding is in terms of the impact this will have, it'll be primarily in alleys during the springtime would be the biggest impact that we would see. Is that fair to say for the snow clearing aspect?
Through the mayor to Councillor Van Newkirk, through Councillor Tellenboss, that is correct for the snow clearing portion, and of course there's the line painting is a separate issue, but that is part of this amount.
Perfect. Thank you. There's a lot of Dutch there, so I see how you can get confused. Next question just relates to the line painting. I'll be honest, there are some terrible drivers in Beaumont. Without the lines, I don't know if some of these folks can stay in their lane. Is there a critical area where you feel that we would be putting ourselves at risk where potentially the lines are no longer visible?
Through the mayor to Councillor Tellenboss, we prioritize high areas of higher safety concerns and also higher traffic areas where lines are wore away quicker. So those are kind of our priority areas. Without having our full budget, we do just focus on more safety areas, crosswalks that are wore away, that sort of thing. And that would be the plan for 26. That's what we did for 25.
Perfect. Your calmness suggests that you're okay with this reduction. It's the vibe I get. Just obviously more money is better, but
we did put it forward as a recommendation for a way to save costs. I mean, I'd like to do all of these things, but we also understand that there are some constraints, and we're trying to offer some ideas about how council can have some flexibility in how they spend.
Perfect. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Mr. Lewicki. We appreciate that as well. Councillor Hyde and then Councillor Penrod.
Yeah, just first of all, thank you to Mr. Bohojchuk for clarifying what I was trying to get to. And that is the point of many of the things that I've been putting forward over the last 2 days, is saying that I want to have health for the future. So some of the things that were even defeated yesterday, I'm looking at a 10-year plan. I'm not looking at a 2-year plan or a 3-year plan or a 4-year plan. I'm looking at where are we going to be in 10 years? Because if we look at Beaumont 10 years ago, it looks a little different today. So when I look at this ask, I'm thinking, is anybody going to be worried about this in 5 years or 4 years? Is that what we're debating here, or we're just worried about next year? So I'm thinking about the overall health of the community and moving forward, and I'm okay with a little bit of short-term pain in order to get to where we need to be. Just like in your own household, sometimes you got to cut back on a few things in order to be healthy for the future. This is what I'm looking at with these type of motions. So just to clarify that, that's where I'm going.
Thank you, Councillor Hyde. Councillor Penrod.
Thanks, Mayor. So just a question for clarification from Councillor Murray. I think we've demonstrated, I think we're on the same page as far as if we can afford more services this year and avoid some of the knock-on costs of delaying, of adopting these temporary service reductions. Great. The question though is, how do you anticipate paying for them? And that's part of later today decisions. I get that, but it would help me to understand how you're thinking about that. And I think this gets to some of the concerns that Councillor Hyde's raising as well.
Councillor Murray. Oh, wrong one. Sorry, go ahead.
Yes, thank you for the question. I mean, yeah, money doesn't grow on trees, so it's definitely going to be coming out of what we would be able to put into other areas. My understanding is we're not completely done on some of the motions that may actually help to balance this out a little bit. But yeah, I definitely I can understand that. I brought it forward more thinking about that service portion of it, and it will impact the taxpayer. That's what this would it'll impact them if we don't go with it, or if we do go with it, either in the tax rate or in the service level.
Thank you. And then question for Mr. Bohojchuk, if you can just speak, because you have a way of using metaphors that just, I think, help people to understand this on a pretty practical level. You've already started this, I think, but where my mind goes on this front is, when we look to balance the budget today by cutting the household budget for, I think one of the things you mentioned in your presentation was RESPs, right? Like putting aside money for future education of the kids. So yeah, balance the budget today, but we're not going to make any of those contributions. Is that a fair kind of analogy, or would you use a different one on this front? I mean, there's a lot of ifs in here. I understand we just have a motion in front of us, but if you could help me with a little clarity there.
Mr. Boychuk?
Through the mayor to Councillor Penrod. So yes, to build on a municipality is similar to a house metaphor. So in this instance, this would be asking for, we had contemplated, because times are tough, we're going to get craft dinner instead of gourmet pasta that we are usually accustomed to. That's what we want. But this is saying that, you know what, I really can't live with craft dinner. I need to have the gourmet, but in trade-off, I'm not going to contribute to my retirement fund or the kids' education fund, because that's how, from a financial perspective, it seems that the final lever will be around, after we do the operating impacts, will be, what do I have left for future planning? And so whatever we adjust here, I feel will be reflected in that piece, unless there's a different service that council would like to adjust to offset. Right, so if I want to get the gourmet pasta, maybe I'm going to get rid of my Netflix account, or that there's another trade-off that we're not aware of coming, but that it seems like the last plugs will be future planning.
Yeah, thanks. And so just to finish that thought, and I'll just telegraph this now, I'm happy to support a motion like this. I'm happy to vote in favor of achieving the level of service that we've committed to in our community. And I appreciated the clarification earlier. This isn't about us adding services, it's about us actually budgeting correctly so that we can deliver the services we've committed to. Because the public has had a fair argument that we've done some of the building we've done in the past on the backs of erosion of service. I'd say building, and we've actually robbed our reserve funds a bit. So I'm happy to support this with respect to services, but again, going back to that triangle and the concept of trades, what I'm not going to be willing to do later is continue to erode our reserve position or hurt some of our other operational funds in order to fund this request. So that's where I'm appreciative of the reminder that motions to reconsider are a viable option that's on the table. Thanks.
Councillor Colesmith.
Thank you. Just regarding the line painting, did we receive any feedback or complaints or anything regarding the line painting, or even the alley clearing just with the one way? What was the impact from a resident perspective as far as what we heard?
Through the mayor to Councillor Colesmith, I am aware of several complaints we had for line painting. They were minimal from what I understand. For the alley, I'm not 100% sure. I'm not sure if Mr. Piacentini has any comments on whether we received a lot of service requests for alley work or complaints. Do you have any comments on that?
Through the mayor to Councillor Colesmith, you're testing my memory. We have complaints about every service we offer. There was some, but to be said, there is complaints about every service we offer to some degree. Nothing's outstanding that threw up a red flag.
Okay, that's what I was looking for. Having operated this way in the last year, there weren't any red flags that came out of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Penrod, did you have your thing on again? No? Okay. So I think we're ready to vote. I think this is a difficult one because, yes, we want to provide services to our residents. We know that. But at the same time, I'm of the same mind that we're at a difficult place where we need to get some numbers down to be able to get some health in our reserves as well as provide core services. And with this one, I understand that we are going to be providing alley service. It's just going to be one way. It's not going to be a full robust. And so it's not like we're completely eliminating that service, correct? It's that it's just going to be reduced in some way. So we're going to do a vote now. Sorry, Councillor Murray, did you want to speak to anything before we do that?
Sorry, I relied you to turn that on that time. Yeah, just another recap. Again, it's a really tough decision, and I appreciate everybody's input on these. I think it's important that we've at least brought it to the table and brought it out to the public and made them aware of the reasons why we vote one way or another one. So thanks so much for the debate.
Thank you for that as well. I appreciate that because I think it is important for the public to know, so I appreciate that. Okay, we're ready to vote. And that was defeated, 6-1 with Councillor Murray in favor. Councillor Talonbos, did you want to say something?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. If I may, before we get into the next motion, Jay had asked a quick question about debt servicing and what the amount of our highest debt would need to be paid off to reflect a 1% decrease. I'm wondering if you had an opportunity to explore that.
Through the Mayor to Councillor Natellenbos, thank you for the reminder. It's not a simple situation, is that the borrowings are often structured and restricted from being able to pay off early and stuff. But assuming that we were able to do that, and so I didn't have to be able to go on with the legal contracting of what our obligation is, it would require a payment of over $900,000, it's almost $1 million, in order to save the debt servicing of $300,000 as a 1%. So it would actually cost us 3 times the amount out of reserve to save 1% than if we had just made the reduction to the reserve transfer itself.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Thank you. We'll proceed with the next motion. Councillor Murray.
Thank you. That the following change request be removed from the operating budget 2026 INF facilities deferred maintenance in the amount of $20,000. This is again an ask to increase service levels. I definitely have put it through a trend in the last few asks. Again, just looking to our asset, how that's going to affect them over the next few years. This dollar amount is quite a low amount, so it wouldn't impact the tax rate that goes out to residents. And I do wonder if we do, defer this, will it cost a little bit more? Maybe not super significant, but I think it's still worth debating because it was cut in the service levels. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Mr. Lewicki, I believe you're the one to speak to this. Is it correct? Or is this? Yes? Yeah. I have a question regarding what would be the services here that would be impacted, deferred maintenance. Can you give us a breakdown?
Through the Mayor, there's no specific items that would be deferred. This would be based on priorities and emerging concerns through various facilities across the city. As things arise, we would consider the entire budget we have and manage that budgeting accordingly, knowing that we would have $20,000 less to maintain our annual facilities. And so there could be certain things that would be pushed into a future year. So that might be an HVAC or servicing, or I don't know if Mr. Orlovsky has any further comments on how we will be managing that deferral.
That's okay. Let's try it again. Okay. The question was about...
Sorry, I don't know who answered or asked the question.
I did.
Okay,
Yeah.
To the Mayor. So we would be postponing non-critical maintenance, so mainly aesthetic type of maintenance. So we would be deferring painting or things like that. But beyond that, we'd be looking at things case by case. So we wouldn't defer any critical maintenance for, life safety systems. We have to keep the heat on in the building, that sort of thing. So yeah, we'd be looking at it case by case when things pop up, but we would be definitely deferring painting or aesthetics.
Okay, so that's helpful for me to know that you do have a sort of a criteria to prioritize, because doing that on the fly can be messy unless you have certain criteria. So the aesthetics would be kind of the as you mentioned. Okay, painting, thank you. Okay, I'm going to go to Councillor Hyde first, and then Councillor Penrod.
Yeah, again, looking at this, whether it's $20,000 or $200,000, it reflects the administration's wanting to get efficient. And I think that's where we're looking at from administration is these cuts here are efficiency cuts. I think that say, hey, we need to skim a little bit off here in order to have something over here. So I definitely would look at this as one of those type of things that, look, they're willing to move a little bit here and to give a little bit and to move some funds other ways. And I think that reflects efficiency. So I can't support this budget for that reason, or this motion.
Councillor Penrod.
Thank you. So maybe this question I can direct to Mr. Orlovsky as well. Can you just speak to the department's kind of overall approach to, I believe, this funding request or proposed adjustment to service levels, right? Because it still fits in that category. Falls within operation and maintenance of city-owned facilities, right? I guess, first of all, can you give me a round figure of what the overall budget for that work is?
To the mayor, to Councillor Penrod, I'm sorry, I'm not exactly sure what you're looking for.
Yeah, so if I look on page 40, expenses in the department are rolled up in a way that I can't really easily see or think about what it takes for the operation and maintenance of all city-owned facilities.
I'm going to refer to doctor now. You're a doctor. Wow. Go ahead, Mr. Boyachuk.
Through the mayor to Councillor Penrod. So not having the breakdown, but it would fall probably both into contracted and general services as well as supplies and materials, or materials and supplies to deliver general maintenance.
Yeah, so I get that. Yeah. What I'm looking for is like a high-level ballpark figure of what that work costs, because we're adjusting that budget a little bit, and then this particular motion has to do with a pressure that's proposed to put within the department to defer out some of that maintenance, right?
So if I may, before we get into the detail of the number, but this is similar to the traffic safety program that we talked about yesterday that is reactive in nature, right? So there's some planned maintenance, but also some reaction. This is, in my mind, a acceptance of a little bit more risk that, if we're not planning that things would fail, and we're okay that maybe if some paint gets scraped up on a wall, okay, for this year we won't touch it, stuff like that. That we're not. This is a reactive budget, and so that we're just a little bit comfortable taking a little bit more risk should something small arise. Yes. And we could definitely take it away and get the exact number of what.
I think we're headed in the same direction. I'm not asking for an exact number, and maybe this would be a easier way to answer it. When we think of the total amount of money annually to do that work, $20,000 would represent what kind of percentage?
I would have to take that away to get you a number on that percentage. I don't have it broken down by that level right now.
Okay, then I'll shift gears. So, Mr. Orlovsky, can you speak to the general approach within the department to this kind of maintenance? If you have a budget in a given year, are you looking to spend that entire budget no matter what, or to the reactive piece that Mr. Bohachuk just mentioned, are you handling a certain amount of that maintenance on a as-needed basis?
Through the mayor to Councillor Penrod, yes, we don't look to spend the whole budget. We just we spend what we need to maintain the buildings properly. So, anything that doesn't need to be done, then we can return some money.
Thank you.
So I guess my point of probing around in here is with if this motion passes, it doesn't doesn't really give you more money. It gives you a little less permission to defer. It just seems to me like this is not a huge segment of the overall budget for this work of maintenance within the department.
Through the mayor to Councillor Penrod, that is correct. I think I also want to state that we don't have all this extra funds at the end of the year that we give back. But what we're trying to recommend here is that to Councillor Hyde's point and others, we are looking at trying to tighten the belt a little bit just to be able to defer any lower risk items that, to Mr. Rivlowski's point, are more aesthetic, right? Refreshing a paint in a building where the walls are dinged up or something like that. There's a possibility if we get to a point with the budget where it's if we have some really large unexpected operational concerns like a complete HVAC failure, I mean our budget gets eaten up pretty quickly if we have several of those in a year, for instance. And so there's always a chance that we'll be deferring higher things, but we get through it, we figure it out, we prioritize and consider risk and make sure that the buildings are safe for usage and so on to meet service levels. Thanks.
Thank you so much. I'm going to go to Councillor Talonboss.
Perfect, thank you. I guess another question for you, Mr. Lewicki. Just in terms of, I'm just a bit concerned. We talk about paint and damage to the walls. I'm going to give up an example here, and it's not to knock at an operational approach, but the field house, for example, had a few big holes in the drywall for, I would say, close to a year, and I see puckboard over it now. Would this be a scenario where we would need that 20 grand and that's why that project was, or fix or maintenance was delayed? I don't want to have a scenario where we have holes in our wall and we're dealing with issues, not just aesthetically, but some of it's safety as well, and functionality. Will taking away this 20 grand leave holes in our wall?
Through the mayor to Councillor Talonboss, we try to prioritize the higher priority items. It'll depend on, again, what happens through the year with emerging issues, but the idea would be is that if there's a hole kicked in the wall, we would try to repair that. What we're referring to, I mean, I know we're using the painting as an example. The idea behind that would be, we do regularly paint facilities so that they look maintained. And so if an incident occurs in a building where a ball goes through a wall or someone kicks it or punches it, it would be the plan to repair that and not leave it looking unmaintained. Does that help?
Yeah, I think so. Basically what you're saying is we might have an off-white wall for a year.
Yeah, yes. I mean, there are other things that we would be, it's not just painting. There might be other things that we're looking at, but that's a reasonable example to use, I think.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for those questions. And Mr. Boychuk, did you want to say something before we vote?
Just to touch back to Councillor Penrod's request. So my people tell me that the building maintenance and repair budget is $1 million within the budget.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Would you like to close off here, Councillor Murray, before we vote?
There's not a whole lot more to add to this. Well debated. Some good details in here now. So hopefully I can get your support in moving this.
Thank you. We will now go to vote. And that was defeated 6-1 in favor of Councillor Murray. Thank you for that discussion, robust debate around this. We are actually going to take this as a time to break for lunch. Someone advised me on that. Someone advised me on that in terms of lunch. Yeah. Or do we need to take a short break and then lunch? And
Thank you, Mayor. No, I think it would be a good time to take lunch now.
okay. So we're going to break for an hour since we are going longer today, till 6 o'clock. So we'll be back here at 10 to 1? 10 to 1? Thank you, everyone.